newborn king of the Jews. We observed a star in the eastern sky that signals his birth. We're on a pilgrimage to worship him. When word of their inquiry got to Herod, he was terrified. And not Herod alone, but most of Jerusalem as well. Herod lost no time. He gathered all the high priests and religious scholars and seated together and asked, "Where is the Messiah supposed to be born?" They told him, "Bethlehem, Judea territory." The prophet Micah wrote it plainly. In Micah it says, "It's you, Bethlehem, in Judah's land, no longer bringing up the rear. From you will come the leader who will shepherd my people, my Israel." Herod then arranged a secret meeting with the scholars from the east, pretending to be as devout as they were. He got them to tell him exactly when the birth announcement star appeared. Then Herod told them the prophecy about Bethlehem and said, "Go find this child, leave no stone unturned. As soon as you find him, send word and I'll join you at once in your worship." Instructed by the king, they set off. Then the star appeared again, the same star they had seen in the eastern skies. It led them on until it hovered over the place of the child. They could hardly contain themselves. They were in the right place. They had arrived at the right time. They entered the house and saw the child in the arms of Mary, his mother. Overcome, they kneeled and worshiped him. They opened their luggage and presented gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. In a dream, they were warned not to report back to Herod, so they worked out another route and left the territory without being seen and returned to their own country. Now, I'm not so much as going to preach tonight. All of us have studied the Christmas story exhaustively. The main thing I want you to keep in mind as you reflect on the Christmas story is these were real people. We've made imaginary people out of them. We've made them storybook characters. No, these were real people with real emotions and real struggles in life, just like you and me. They were just chosen by God for such a time as this. And I've unlocked a lot of the mysteries of the birth of Jesus, but when I read the account of the Magi in Matthew chapter 2, I find a mystery that I cannot solve, and I don't find an answer in the Bible. I wonder about the people in Jerusalem. I wonder about the people in Herod's court who met the Magi and heard their words about the newly born king. My mind is flooded with questions. What were they thinking? Why didn't they join the Magi and search for the Messiah? Why? There had to have been hundreds of people who heard the story of these people. Jerusalem wasn't that big of a town. And the wise men didn't come into Jerusalem and go straight to the king's palace. They came into Jerusalem and got them a motel room, started asking around town and went to the marketplace. They wandered all over town trying to find somebody who could tell them where this king was born. So there had to have been hundreds of people who heard this story, and yet not a single one of them joined the search for the Messiah. And even today, the Jews still are looking for the Messiah. And yet here we are in Jerusalem, in the city of the Jews. The wise men come to the city of the Jews, go to the inn, and then start going around town saying, "We've come to worship this new king that's been born. Where is he? Where do we go to worship this new king?" And the Jews, even Herod, plainly understood they were talking about the Messiah. The scholars that Herod called in and questioned, they understood they were talking about the Messiah. The Jews in Jerusalem at the time understood who these men were talking about. The Jews, even Herod, understood These people have come to worship the Messiah. The Jerusalem scholars clearly understood that they were looking for the Messiah. The Jews had been looking for and expecting the Messiah, and here came a search party from the east with a wonderful story about a miraculous appearance of a star and the possible birth of the Messiah. And nobody joined them in their search. If you did not fully believe their story, wouldn't you at least check it out? But verse 3 says, most of Jerusalem was terrified. Now, what's up with that? I'm giving you lots of questions tonight, and I have no answers. I'm telling you up front, I have no answers. Why was the man on the street terrified that these people had come from the east looking for the King of the Jews? I can understand Herod being terrified, because Herod was the king put in place by the Roman government. So I can understand Herod was, if you study history, he was paranoid anyway. And for them to come to town saying, we've come to worship the newly born King of the Jews, of course he would be terrified. But what about the guy down at the marketplace selling wheat? What about the lady in the booth selling linens? The Bible says most of Jerusalem was terrified. Why were those people terrified? I don't know. Why were they